Welcome to The Debate. Our source material presents a clear two-part strategy for achieving freedom from negative attachments, adopting a new mindset, and taking practical steps. The central question for us is really one of leverage. Which of these two paths, the foundational mental transformation or the consistent behavioral discipline, provides the more potent and necessary mechanism for true liberation? I'll be arguing that adopting the new mindset is the primary, indispensable step.
And I come at it from a different way. While the mental framework certainly provides context, I firmly believe that true liberation requires the sustained, concrete force of those practical steps. Action is where an abstract belief is solidified. It's where the genuine shift in energy really occurs.
The material emphasizes two key mindset changes. First, realizing that worldly outcomes are temporary, a concept it calls prioritizing your soul's ultimate victory. Placing eternal progression above immediate earthly validation. And second, embracing the fundamental truth that this physical world is, transient. Without this radical mental reprioritization, any practical steps are merely temporary adjustments. They're coping mechanisms, not catalysts for a true release.
Okay, I see that shift from internal philosophy to external mechanism. It's interesting, but I would argue that belief is hollow until it's tested in the field. True liberation requires disciplined action. The framework's practical steps, things like redirecting negative energy toward productive action, like studying or working, and the active effort to shift from a taking to a giving heart, are crucial. These behaviors generate the necessary momentum and cultivate what the material calls the post-release mindset, providing tangible, empirical proof of change that, passive belief just cannot deliver alone.
I see why you emphasize action, I do. But let's consider the necessity of a foundation here. Trying to act productively without the mindset? Isn't that like trying to build a new house on quicksand? The ability to successfully learn from the past, don't dwell on it, relies entirely on that prior acceptance of impermanence. If you haven't internalized that foundational philosophical shift, dwelling on past failures just becomes a vicious cycle because you still see those failures as having some sort of eternal defining consequence. The mindset is the necessary solvent that loosens the attachment.
I'm not entirely convinced by that line of reasoning, because merely accepting impermanence can often be, passive. It risks leading to a kind of detachment without any corresponding discipline. What happens when the temptation for the old attachment arises? Active steps, like productive effort and giving, are the disciplines that actually enforce the mental release. They're the engine. We've all seen people who intellectually agree the past is transient, yet they are crippled by inertia. The act of redirecting energy by studying, for example, immediately breaks the negative thought loop. It imposes the mental freedom you seek, regardless of whether that philosophical acceptance is fully mature yet.
That's a compelling argument for the immediate efficacy of energy redirection. But let me offer a challenge regarding its sustainability. If our productive action isn't guided by that deeper principle of prioritizing the soul's ultimate victory, doesn't productive action risk becoming yet another worldly attachment? You could simply be trading an attachment to failure for an attachment to career success. You haven't achieved true freedom, only a different set of temporary chains.
That's a critical distinction, absolutely. And the material specifically addresses it by requiring the shift from a taking to a giving heart. This isn't just any productive action. It is non-attached action. The mechanism is that altruistic action immediately breaks the ego investment loop that defines attachment. When you act purely to benefit another, the outcome, success or failure, it just no longer impacts your self-worth. This selfless behavior creates the very belief structure you're seeking, often faster than purely abstract contemplation ever could.
I acknowledge the immense power of that behavioral shift toward altruism. However, I still maintain that the meaning assigned to that altruism Whether it's just a feel-good earthly exchange or an action taken in light of the soul's ultimate trajectory, that still dictates whether that act truly leads to lasting freedom. The internal frame is the anchor.
And I would maintain that the initial leverage point for change, the ability to act immediately and constructively, is rooted in the practical steps which demonstrate the very possibility of non-attached living. These actions serve as the essential forge where true liberation is actually wrought.
Well, our discussion has certainly illuminated the critical tension within this framework. Whether freedom is primarily achieved through a foundational, metaphysical understanding or through an external, sustained behavioral intervention.
Right. Both components, the new mindset that reprioritizes eternal success and the practical steps like shifting to a giving heart, are clearly integral to the framework. But we'll leave the listener to consider the interdependence of these elements and, which one provides the initial and most potent leverage point for lasting change.